Coming up on Valley News Live at 6, police need some help in finding out who's responsible for scattering bags with racist messages throughout a West Fargo neighborhood.
Plus, the risk only growing as 14 Minnesota schools fall victim to swatting incidents today.
And increasing safety and reinvigorating the workforce. We'll update efforts with inside the Cass County Jail. Valley News Live at 6 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 6.
Good evening, everyone. West Fargo police are investigating what they say were hundreds of racist bags tossed throughout Wild's neighborhood early this morning, and officers are asking for your help identifying those responsible.
Valley News Team's crime and safety reporter Bailey Hurley spoke with police and explains what the message means.
Driveways, sidewalks, and yards across the Wilds neighborhood in the south side of West Fargo were littered with hundreds of bags like these Wednesday morning.
It's really disappointing, number one. It's concerning.
Inside, the pamphlet shows pictures of 14-year-old Jupiter Paulson and 23-year-old Arthur Colley with the words, "The Great Replacement and Its Consequences." Paulson was murdered by Colley in a Fargo strip mall parking lot in June 2021.
And we don't support and won't tolerate this kind of thing taking place in our community.
Experts say the Great Replacement theory is often touted by white supremacist groups, claiming people of color are being brought to the U.S. to replace white voters to achieve a political agenda.
It really goes against everything that the city stands for and certainly what the police department stands for, and that's why we really want to get to the bottom of who's behind it.
West Fargo police are asking for neighbors to check security cameras for any suspicious activity Tuesday night into Wednesday morning to help them identify the people responsible. But Chief Otterness adds it's still hard to say what crimes they could face. Several neighbors we spoke with say it's disgusting to know people in the community think and act like this. And along with Chief Otterness, say everyone is welcome in West Fargo. Bailey Hurley, Valley News Live.
If you have any information or footage of this incident, you're urged to call West Fargo Police at the number there on your screen, 701-515-5500.
Nice day out there. Cool start in some parts of the valley. Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson is here to give us a first look at tonight's weather. Hutch?
Mike, thanks so much. Good evening, everyone, on this last day of astronomical summer. Yes, it's a cool one out there. And if you look at this real cool view here from our South Fargo location, you can see the billowing clouds out to the east of us. This is into Minnesota. Some of them producing some showers that you can see falling down to the ground on the right-hand side of your screen there. These are all going to miss the FM area, by the way, so get out and enjoy your evening here. Prepare for just quick passing light showers of rain elsewhere, but all of us need to be prepared for cold overnight temperatures that will yield some widespread areas of frost across the valley. A lot of us will be in the 30s. Well, you may want to bring in those potted plants or cover up your tomatoes. 50s and mid-50s at that across our northern and eastern counties. Low 60s right now on a cool and breezy night. Showers are starting to wrap up, the ones that we're seeing off to the east here in parts of Norman County as well as parts of the Clay County area. Temperatures will be sneaking down into the 30s as we head towards the morning. I'll tell you how low we go. We'll talk about that frost chance and a good chance of some rain in the forecast to close out the work week as well. We'll detail that in a moment.
It's been a while since we've had to hear you say how low we go.
Right.
Get used to it, right?
It's that time of year.
Yeah, thanks.
Grand Forks police arrested a woman they say was attempting to kill her mother. That happened just before 1 a.m. in the 800 block of 18th Avenue South. Police say 28-year-old Jenna Winoravic was upset with her 61-year-old mother who tried to walk away from an argument. Police say her daughter followed her and assaulted her with an edged weapon. She's arrested on charges of attempted murder, aggravated assault, and interfering with a call during an emergency. Her mother's injuries are said to be non-life-threatening.
One of the Minneapolis police officers accused of killing George Floyd pleaded guilty to aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter and is being sentenced to 3 years. Thomas Lane is already serving a 2.5-year federal sentence for a previous sentencing of violating Floyd's civil rights. Prosecutors and Lane's attorneys agreed to a recommended sentence of 3 years, and prosecutors agreed to allow him to serve that penalty at the same time as his federal sentence.
We want everyone here today to know we will never move on because there's no such thing, and as we all know, that's not how grieving works. The murder of George Perry Floyd will forever and continue to hurt always. We will never fully or really move on from the loss of a loved one.
Thomas Lane was holding down Floyd's legs at the time of his death.
There isn't much to share yet on a situation that had many questioning why a helicopter was circling their neighborhood in South Fargo. Here's what we know so far. It happened this morning between 5:30 and 6:30 at 6th Street and 9th Avenue. Authorities are calling it a planned and proactive operation, admitting Fargo PD teamed up with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. One viewer living nearby told Valley News Live there were 2 flashbangs and several K9 units at the scene. At this point, Fargo PD says the operation at this location is over, although few details are being released because it is an active investigation. Stick with Valley News Live as we follow this developing story.
One person was treated at the hospital after a 4-vehicle crash. It happened at the intersection of 23rd Avenue South and 42nd Street Southwest. Authorities say a driver was approaching a red light. He wasn't able to stop, possibly because of a mechanical issue. Police say that no tickets were issued. The injuries were said to be non-life-threatening.
Drivers on Highway 336 near Moorhead this morning ran into a short-term closure of the ramp to westbound I-94 because of a semi-crash. No injuries were reported. The ramp was closed for about 90 minutes, though. While the crash was being cleared, drivers had to follow an alternate route.
Some tense moments this morning in Minnesota at 14 schools as emergency responders rushed into the schools following reports of active shooter situations. Dozens of police officers, county sheriff's deputies, and additional first responders scrambled to the schools across the state. Fortunately, all of the messages were bogus, suspected to be part of an organized effort targeting schools and communities across the country. Minnesota's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension sent out alerts telling the district's staff and students that the calls seem to be what's known as swatting. That's where a prank call is made in an attempt to trigger a large law enforcement response to a particular address.
We have to respond in a way that we take all of these threats seriously, and we have to take them serious, and so that's why these hoaxes are so frustrating, because of the emotional stress it places on our community.
And these swatting calls didn't just hit Minnesota. They also happened in parts of Florida, Texas, New York. Swatting is a gross misdemeanor, and those caught could face up to a year in jail, a $3,000 fine, or both. If someone is hurt or killed as a result of a swatting call, it becomes a felony, and the person responsible could receive a 10-year prison sentence.
Mark your calendars. Living Hope Baptist Church is sponsoring what they're calling a gas buy-down event. It's going to happen Saturday from 10 a.m. until noon at the PetroServe USA on Main Avenue West in West Fargo. Get this, gas will be discounted $1.25 lower than the list price. Church members are going to also be offering free window washes, tire checks, and gift bags.
That's quite a deal. Increasing safety and reinvigorating the workforce. That's the goal of a new program at the Cass County Jail. Details later here at 6.
And here's a look at peak wind gusts today. They exceeded 35 miles per hour in the James River Valley. Morning temperatures were chilly in Fargo, but it will be even colder for many to begin your Thursday. Frost advisory in effect. Your hour-by-hour forecast is coming up next.
This is Valley News Live.